Doamna Balleza, vă mulțumesc foarte mult pentru că ați acceptat să ne acordați acest interviu și bine ați venit în Republica Moldova. Organizația pe care dumneavoastră o reprezentați este Rețeaua Globală a Femeilor Pacificatoare, care promovează foarte mult agenda de femei, pace și securitate. De ce credeți că acest subiect este important acum la nivel global?
The Women, Peace and Security Agenda, which is using the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325 and the supporting resolutions on women, peace and security as a legal framework, is a groundbreaking policy that for the first time addresses how the wars impact on women, impact the world, impact the international peace and security situation. So basically, this agenda and the international laws that support the agenda recognizes the fact that all of us, women and men, girls and boys, are affected by war. But women are affected disproportionately because of their second-class status in most societies. So it also recognizes the fact that while women are victims, they are not passive victims. They are taking action to resolve the conflict. They are making important decisions to advance the peace agenda. So it's taking the perception of women as victims to a transformative role as peace builders and decision makers. So it's breaking the traditional notion of how wars affect women.
Dacă ar fi să ne adresăm femeilor care sunt în zonele de conflict, care ar fi principalele argumente pe care am putea să le invocăm pentru ca acestea să ia o poziție de lideri în avansarea agendei de pacificare?
So when we travel to different countries where we implement our programs in advancing the implementation of the resolution, meaning translating the words into concrete actions, we talk to the women. We talk to the women in conflict-affected communities. So we ask them, how are you affected by the violent conflict? So they tell us many things. They tell us we're having major difficulties because our husbands or our sons or fathers have gone to war. And many of us have become heads of households, heads of our families and even our communities. So we're taking bigger responsibilities, much bigger than the responsibilities that we already have. And we also initiate the mediation in our communities, especially in situations where there's ethnic conflicts or there's conflicts based on differences in religion. And on top of that, we also need to ensure that our families are living as normal lives as possible, meaning there's food on the table. Our children are able to go to school if schools are operating. If schools are not operating, we work with teachers and administrators to continue, the school to function, because we cannot sacrifice our children's education. We cannot sacrifice our children's future. That's what they're telling us. So in the face of all of this burden, difficult realities, don't you want to have a bigger say on how these conflicts should be resolved, on how the affairs of your communities should be managed, the affairs of government should be managed? So then they realize, yes, not only that we have the right to be at the decision-making table, but it's the smart thing to do because we have these unique perspectives and we have solutions to offer. So they have a big appreciation for the Women, Peace and Security agenda. They have a big appreciation for the international laws, and they're holding their governments accountable to ensuring that they are effectively implemented in the capital, in local communities like Gagauzia, in regions like Gagauzia or Transnistria, because fundamentally that's where they should matter most.
Doamna Balleza, dacă ar fi să vă referiți la rezoluția 1325, Femeia, Pacea și Securitatea Consiliului de Securitate a ONU, care considerați că sunt cele mai principale aspecte și care sunt acele priorități pe care trebuie să le preia statele atunci când implementează această rezoluție, la nivel central, la nivel local?
I think the most important aspect or the top priority is women's participation in decision making. Because when women are seen as decision makers and when their voices are heard equally as along with men and any other actor, then you are on the way to a more effective solution. And when women are seen as decision makers, it makes them less vulnerable. It makes them less vulnerable, and their words and actions are respected and taken into serious consideration and are integrated in government programs and responses to the conflict. So it's fundamental that women are at the decision-making table at all levels, from community to regional to national to international, because our observation has been women are very active at the community level, and women are recognized at the community level, which often is seen as informal and unofficial. But when it elevates to the national level, to the global level, they disappear. They disappear because they're not seen as leaders, they're not seen as experts, and especially on matters of security or peace and security, because the equation is that security equals defense and military, and therefore women have no business being involved in these matters.
Care credeți că sunt acele calități pe care le au femeile care ar putea să contribuie la un proces de negociere de succes și, bineînțeles, la instaurarea procesului de pacificare și a păcii într-un final?
Local women living in conflict-affected communities have direct experience and therefore the most profound insights on how these conflicts take place. What are the root causes? What are the specific impacts on their families, on their communities, and to themselves as individuals? And informed by those profound insights, they come to the table with smart solutions. Solutions that will work, solutions that have not been considered in many official negotiations. Also, the problem with most official negotiations is that they are held from only two perspectives, or what I call a two-sided table. The government and the opposing forces. And so it's those who have been involved in waging the war, but not those who have been involved in waging the peace. And that is where most women are. They are peace wagers, they are peace builders, they are mediators. And that has not been factored into official peace negotiations. That's why most of them fail. And even when there's already a peace agreement, we have seen in many situations that before the ink that was used to sign the peace agreement has dried, they are already violating the provisions of the peace agreements. But women, because they live through the conflict, they will embrace the solutions, the peaceful solutions, and make sure that they are implemented.
Doamna Balleza, aș vrea să continuăm interviul nostru cu o întrebare care cred eu că este foarte importantă, și anume care sunt problemele cu care se confruntă femeile, cu care se confruntă acele persoane care fac parte din procesul de pacificare, și anume care sunt problemele cu care se confruntă atunci când avansează sau doresc să promoveze agenda de femei, pace și securitate.
The lack of security is one of the persistent challenges that peace activists or advocates of the women, peace and security agenda are facing. And very sadly, there are still countries who interpret the promotion and implementation of the agenda as something critical to them, critical to the ruling government. And they don't see this as something helpful to them. In fact, when you have a peaceful community, peaceful country, it is highly likely that you will have development. Business will prosper in a genuinely peaceful community. But there's no realization as such, there's no appreciation, and there have been a number of countries where our members and partners have been threatened for merely implementing the Women, Peace and Security resolutions or participating in peace negotiations. Another pressing challenge is the lack of economic opportunities, employment or livelihood resources. There's many ways to describe it. I will share with you the quote that I've heard from some of our peace builders partners. They say, we love peace. We've been working for peace all our lives, but we cannot fully and effectively participate. We won't be able to concentrate on our peace building activities if there's no food on the table for our families. And being economically independent is also equated to their own security. When women are earning their own income or substantially contributing to the family's income, they are looked at differently by their own families and the communities. They're looked at with respect. It's side by side with being able to make decisions when you are economically empowered. And I also find this a very apt description. They tell us, hungry stomachs are angry people, and that can lead to conflict, or that can aggravate conflicts.
Iată din ce motiv pacea și dezvoltarea merg împreună. Și dacă ar fi să vă întreb, pentru că dumneavoastră deja aveți o experiență foarte mare în ceea ce privește domeniul de femei, pace și securitate, ce exemple pozitive am putea noi să le oferim femeilor din Republica Moldova care ar putea să le încurajeze să promoveze agenda de femei, pace și securitate?
Absolutely. I'm from the Philippines, so we're also implementing the localization program there. And modesty aside, I initiated the national action planning in the Philippines. And in one municipality where we work in, it's called Real, Quezon, the municipal council, the mayor and the municipal council, passed a local resolution that appoints women to 50% of the administrative and appointive positions in the municipality. So meaning all of the decision makers, the important staff positions in those municipalities, 50% of those will be occupied by women. But of course there's a clarification of qualification, qualified women. It's not just because you're a woman you take it on. You know, that position is reserved for you. I think it also pushes us to do our homework, so to speak, to improve on our skills. So that is to us an outstanding example that really when policymakers have the political will, they can do something to address inequality. And as we know, gender inequality is one of the drivers of conflict. Another good example is in Uganda. There is evidence that in the local districts where localization of Resolution 1325 program has been implemented, the incidence or the level of sexual and gender-based violence has been reduced because they have implemented specific measures, for example, ensuring that there are women's desks in all police stations in the district, that there's restriction in selling alcohols to everyone, especially to young people. And there is regulation in terms of how recreational facilities, bars, I'm talking about bars, what should be the distance from the residential areas and the schools. So practical measures like that have resulted into very important achievements, lowering the incidence of sexual and gender-based violence.
Dacă este să ne referim la mentalitatea oamenilor, pentru că acesta tot este un aspect foarte important atunci când vorbim despre implementarea unui anumit proces și la avansarea agendei de femei, pace și securitate, pentru că avem un cadru legal internațional, precum este rezoluția 1325 a Consiliului de Securitate al ONU, avem un cadru legal în Republica Moldova. Care ar fi problemele pe care le avem aici? Cum putem să schimbăm mentalitatea și percepția oamenilor astfel încât ceea ce facem noi să aibă succes?
This is a very important point because we're not only aiming to change policies, laws and policies. We're aiming to change lives for the better. And because of that, as we work with policymakers, with legislators, we're also working with cultural leaders, influencers. Who are this? The religious leaders, school teachers, the media. These are cultural influencers. They shape the mindset of the people. Media, for example, what media puts on the front pages of the newspaper, what people watch on TV, what people hear on radio, they see those as the most important issues for the day, right? And if they hear again and again and again that women's rights, women's empowerment, gender equality should be fully exercised, then they will exercise that in their own lives, in their relationship with their families, in their relationship in the workplace, in school, and everywhere. And if school teachers make it a point to give equal opportunities to girls and boys, to young women and men within the school system, all of that would have a positive impact to the bigger functioning of society. And the same thing with faith leaders. You know, when faith leaders emphasize that inequality between women and men is not in accordance with our faith, then it affects, you know, the psyche of the individuals, of the society. So hand in hand, policies and sociocultural changes, improvements in those two particular areas would create positive and long-lasting impact on the lives of women and men. And I think I can never emphasize it more that gender equality is not just for women. Gender equality is good for women and for men and for girls and boys.
Și doar o ultimă întrebare, aș vrea să vă întreb despre rolul pe care îl are mass media în promovarea agendei de femei, pace și securitate în ceea ce privește rolul educațional și nu doar.
There's a very direct link. You know, the media is it's an agenda-setting social institution. What it prints, what it covers, is seen as the most important agenda of the country, of the society. And Moldova has adopted the National Action Plan on Resolution 1325 recently, right, in May. And it's very new. And I believe not a lot of people, not the majority of the Moldovan public, is aware of it yet. So if we want implementation of Moldova's National Action Plan on Resolution 1325 to be effective, we need full support, full ownership and participation by the general public, not just the few who participated in its elaboration. How will that happen? It will not happen if they don't know about it. And who has that very basic role of informing the public? It's the media, right? So the people can act on it, can contribute in its implementation, in its success, if they are fully aware, if there's full awareness and knowledge of what this means to them. So I cannot stress it more. Media is critically important in effective policy making and policy implementation, for all policies for that matter, for all laws for that matter.
Doamna Balleza, vă mulțumesc foarte mult pentru acest interviu și cu mare drag vă mai așteptăm în studioul TVR Moldova.